and welcome to AJ Paints. I'm Andy. In this video I'll be showing you how I've been painting Cankers, tiny little adversaries from Maladum, the board game by Battle Systems. And later in the video I'll be showing you how I converted an old course-based miniature to be their boss. I'm going to try two different base coats for these ones, whole red and dark sea blue, just to give a bit of variation. We'll start off with a heavy overbrush of dark sea blue. There are only two sculpts with these minis, so the other two I'll be painting in whole red. Cankers eat the magic that your party uses. I'll be using ducat blue and pastel blue for the magical colours. As the miniatures are so small, I'll be using a dry brush to pick out all the detail, in this case a cheap makeup brush. Applying the paint directly onto the paper allows me to control how much is going onto the bristles of my brush, and you can see here I'm cleaning most of it off. Quick test on the thumbnail and it's ready to go, rapidly sweeping it straight across the top of the miniature, picking out all of those details. Once I'm done with the ducat blue, I'll add some pastel blue and then work over the miniature again. And do exactly the same over the whole red base. It gives you a slightly different finish, distinguishes the miniatures a little bit. And with that stage done, it's time to move on to the fleshy areas. I'm using a base of pale sand for these, thinned down and brushed straight on from the wet palette. I'll need to put a couple of layers on, but it helps to get a really smooth finish. I've not been too careful with this, a lot of this is going to be hidden underneath the miniature, but most of the big areas of flesh are covered up. So now moving on to a shade, this is Citadel Colour Contrast Gulliman Flesh, and it's a great one to go straight over that pale sand. Applying straight from the pot, once the pale sand's dry, it allows me to pick out the shadows and get a good skin tone on here really quickly. For the mouth parts, using another contrast paint, this time Blood Angel's Red. That's the paint job done. The only thing that remains on these miniatures is to paint the bases, and for those, as always, I'm using P3 Ironhull Grey. And that's it, all done. They're really easy to paint. Base coat, dry brush, lighter dry brush, and then a bit of messing around with the skin colour. The bases aren't too bad to paint, and you can get them onto the table really quickly. Thanks for watching so far. If you've got time to stick around, I'll show you how I've converted an old miniature into their boss. So the Cankers seem like an evolution of one of these. This is a spider from Core Space, one of the other games for Battle Systems, and it was a really similar looking miniature, so I thought I'd give that a convert. Chopped lots of bits off it, hacked up the top, the front face section, and put a lot of green stuff on. You can see here, it looks a bit like a Christmas tree. It wasn't too difficult a thing to sculpt, really just putting a flat layer on everything and then pushing in to make the ridges and then scraping out with a metal tool to get some of the other parts. You can see here the mouth parts, mandibles and the teeth, and that's then fitted on. There's a lot of baking powder there I used to fill gaps, and it was a fun job to do. I also reposed the miniature, and that was just a case of heating it up with a hairdryer once I'd cut it off the base and bending the legs to the pose that I wanted to put them in. So here we are with a black undercoat ready to get painting. I'm not going to do a lot of dry brushing on this. This is going to be a bit of a trickier paint job. I want it to look nicer, and I'm really focusing on the look from the original artwork. So just to start off with, I know I said I wasn't dry brushing, but this is a good simple way to get a quick base coat on. So whole red on all of the bits that are going to end up fleshy, and then dark sea blue on all of the armour panels. To start with, all the skin sections getting a base coat of Bugman's Glow. It's a good rich colour to start with. You can see here just painting on over the top of that whole red and leaving some space for the shadows. And then building up layers with light flesh here from Vallejo. I'm gradually mixing this in on the wet palette, so this isn't light flesh straight away. This is about 50-50 mix, and you can see I'm painting slightly smaller areas each time. As I go along, I'm painting smaller and smaller areas, a little bit more detail, and then focusing a little bit more towards that lighter light flesh colour. And with the last few details, just the top bits painted, the final wrinkles painted, the flesh is done. So the armour panels are a sort of desaturated greyish brown, and this Rhinox hide's a good base, but it's quite a rich colour. Pale Sand's got some yellow in it, but this Jack Bone's a bit more of a desaturated ivory colour. So mixing all of those in together, gradually working up, gives me a good colour for the armour, starting here with the Rhinox hide. As I move towards lighter areas of the armour, I'm gradually mixing in some of the Jack Bone and a little bit of Pale Sand as well. I'm focusing here on picking out edges and trying to really establish all the cuts and scrapes that I put in earlier when I was converting the miniature, and also to pull the highlights up towards the top of the armour panels, make them look a bit shinier, a bit pointier. I'm using very fine lines of the brightest highlight to really pick out all of the lines and marks that I've carved into the green stuff on the armour. Also focusing on the ends of the points of the mandibles, things like that, makes them appear to be sharper. So back to the magic colours again, and looking at the artwork I can see where all the magical glow is focused. On the back here it's towards the tops of the ridges, around the knees and the legs it's coming towards the bottom of the armour panels, and on the head it's focused towards the top. I'm starting off with pure duck-up blue. As I finish each section, I gradually add more and more of the lighter colour and focus my highlights in smaller and smaller areas. You can see here, picking out just the top edges. The final really bright highlights, just concentrated on points again, exactly the same as I did with the bone colour earlier, and that helps to sell the idea of sharp armour edges. Moving into the last few details now, Pale Sand and Wine Red here for the inside of the mouth and the teeth. The Wine Red goes on the inside of the mouth section here, and then Pale Sand for the teeth. when I've got some pale sand on my brush, I can't really help but add extra highlights. I do like to push the contrast. So you can see here, popping some on the skin, and I moved around and did a little bit more on the armour before I was finally happy to call it all done. The last stage on this, exactly the same as the previous ones and all of my other Maladum minis, is the iron hull grey base. And there we go, all finished. The smaller miniatures look great, super quick to paint, they look good on the tabletop, and the larger one was really good fun. It was excellent fun to convert it. I love doing a bit of green stuff work, and it was nice to be able to paint it in a little bit more detail than the smaller miniatures, just because I was able to sculpt some more of that detail on the armour. Anyway, if you've got this far, I thank you as always for watching, and I'll catch you again next time.